Okay, workout A, the first exercise you're going to perform is the breathing squat. Now, on the breathing squat, what we're going to do is you're going to have your hands out in front of you, and we're going to do our double inhale on everything. So we're going to go inhale. So we're getting like a rowing motion. I really want you to think about a lot of the isotension. Really flex that back musculature, flex your bicep, make your fist. You're actually getting, your flexors, extensors, your upper back, your bicep. So arms are going to be in front of you. Okay. So when we're going through a full range of motion, all we're going to look like in terms of full range of motion is, so my arms come behind me to counterbalance. Now, what I like to do is I like to sit in the squat. Now remember, you've got your variation, your variety, and variability. So you can kind of play around with whatever you feel like you want to work with. So for instance, when I'm doing my squats and I'm down here, I'm using my hands to counterbalance here, getting a nice deep squat. What I'll actually do is I'll actually use my exhale to get down further and further. So I'll just go, and I'll just really sit down and I'll feel for any tension and just try and relax through that tension. Okay, so I might maybe do 3 breaths. Feel for that tension, just relax into it. Come up. Again, double inhale. Now you start to really push your exhale, but down here when I'm squatting like this and holding it, it's a great isometric contraction. Now another thing I can really work on in the bottom position is some breath holds to optimize that BOLD score. So after my exhale, so remember, when we're doing our workouts now, everything's going to be nasal breathing. So I'm going to go, and then I'm exhaling through the nose. So remember, with our daily optimization movement, everything's through the mouth. Here we're nasal breathing exclusively. So with your breathing squats, might want to do it a couple more times. You can come up. So each time you could actually go through more range of motion, do more repetitions. Again, I like to really work on some mobility, try and get down a little deeper, but I just like to mix it up. And that's where again, variation, variety, variability. We want to make sure we're integrating, feel intuitive, just really pay attention to what your needs might be. But remember, hands are right here. I'm pulling in on the first inhale, second exhale. I go to the balls of my feet, hands are back here, and then those hands can come up to counterbalance if I'm going through that rep. Now I could, again, come back up, but right? So you can sit out there, and essentially what I like to do, especially if I'm doing breath holds, really work to that point where you're controlling respiration. But if you start to feel like respiration is getting up real high, you can either stop right there, you can just sit there and breathe, try and get your heart rate down a little bit, or just go right into the next exercise, which will be the Hindu push-ups. So what we're going to do obviously on the Hindu push-ups is, and that's obviously the nice thing about having the blocks, is we can actually have a little bit more range of motion. So I can stretch back here, take a nice big inhale. Scoop under, right? So I can hold, I could double inhale here. And you can see how I reversed it, okay? If that gets too hard, what I'll do is I'll double inhale here. Might double inhale here. I'll reverse it. I'll keep doing that until that gets too hard. Once it gets too hard after I scoop down, then I can just lock the arms, push hips back. Now, when my heart rate starts to get up pretty high, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to push my hips back. I'm going to stretch the hamstrings, the calves, the upper back, the shoulders, drop my chin to my chest, and I might just stretch here for a few times. Now, if I'm really working on the stretch, pay attention to feel the stretch through the rib cage. Feel it through the shoulders. Tuck your chin to your chest. Heels down. Really drive the heels down and back. You'll feel some calves, hamstrings. And as I start to regulate respiration, take a couple nice big inhales. I'll scoop down again. So if you want to really focus on strength, try and scoop under, scoop back. Once it gets pretty challenging, then just scoop under on the concentric, straighten your arms on the eccentric. And then again, if the heart rate starts getting up, then go into that hamstring and gastroc stretch. So after we get done with that, you're just going to go into a child's pose, and you can widen your stance a little bit with your knees, and then really sit back into the heels. So we're trying to stretch through the rib cage, stretching the shoulders. We're also stretching the low back. Just going to hang in it. The big thing is most people are really restricted through rib cage. I like to really have people focus on that rib cage. Now, someone has some knee issues, you know, obviously what they can do is just get a little wider with their knees, and then just sit back a little bit more. It's a really nice stretch in the low back. You can also, you could take your right hand, put it over the left side, take your left hand over to the right side, focus on a little bit more stretch to that rib cage. So just play around and see, you know, where are your points of restriction. After you get done with that, what you're going to do is you're going to go into the bird dog. So on the bird dog, what we want to do is get that nice flat back, extend the hip, make sure you're firing that glute, and what you're going to do is you're going to make a fist out here. So point this toe, flex that right glute, if you're raising that right leg, left arm, get under it, suck your belly in nice and tight. Now this I like to hold for a good 3 breaths. If you want to do these dynamically, what you can do is get in this bird dog and then move your arm dynamically and your leg dynamically. So you don't want to just flail your arm out, whip your leg out. Everything should be So you can use your breath. Typically what I'll do is I will take my breath before I move, and then on the exhale, then I'll power that out with my breath. Okay, so on the bird dog, typically about 3 breaths on each side, switch, do that a couple of times. Again, everything is based on how you're feeling. You always want to make sure you optimize quality of movements. Don't really get fixated on the reps per se, get fixated on the quality of the movements and everything you do. And then just kind of go by how you feel. If you want to do a few more reps, you want to stretch a little bit, come back, and then finish out with another set, you can do that. So we've got 3 rounds in this workout A, so we want to make sure that whatever you're doing, you're really focusing on quality of movements, because once we get into like the 3rd round, you just want to make sure that you're not breaking down mechanically. After the bird dogs, we're going to go to rock, rock up and reach tall. And all that looks like is you're just going to rock back. Now, you can rock back here. So we're going to go into like this posterior pelvic tilt. You can stiffen your legs back there. So we rock, and then you can rock back here, and you can also kind of almost do like a hip extension, okay? And then you come up, sit tall. We're actually going to get that chest out, just really trying to mobilize T-spine. So we rock up, sit tall, rock back, rock up, and reach. So we're going to get like a dynamic hamstring stretch. Now if you go to the front, what you can do is grab your feet, flex your thighs, and you can stretch a couple of times, okay? Rock it back, sit tall, right? T-spine mobility. So what we want to do is we're going to alternate between this reaching forward and then bending the knees, sitting tall. Now you can also rock back, take your right hand, rotate over to the left side. If you're flexible enough, you'll grab the bottom of your foot. You can take this opposite hand and just rotate. So again, we're trying to get a lot of T-spine rotation because a lot of people are locked up in their T-spine. If you grab the bottom of your foot, flex your thigh, so we inhale, and then on the exhale, you want to flex your thigh and then rotate. So what you're doing is you're flexing the quad, which is going to allow a much deeper stretch of the hamstring, and then you can also go into this T-spine rotation. You can also just come here, flex your thigh, keep your hand just on the ground, and really arch your back and try and get a little bit more hamstring stretch. Now remember, we don't want to bend forward so much when we're stretching the hamstring. We want to dorsiflex that foot, flex the thigh, arch the back, and pull at the same time. And you'll feel that stretch all the way up the glute, okay? So that's your rock ups with your reach, and then your rock ups to that tall position. Remember, in the tall position, you're just up nice and tall. Okay, remember, double inhale, good long sustained exhale. Okay, so the last one in the series here we're gonna do is you're gonna be in hip extension here. You're gonna take your right hand and you'll reach as you're in hip extension. So I continue to push my hips up as I reach over here, over my shoulder, okay? Double inhale. Okay, so I can go into hip extension, double inhale, and then do my reach, okay? This is tremendous, not only for the glutes, you're getting some hamstrings, but that rotatory action, right? So you're rotating here, your elbow is against the ground here, you're in hip extension, so when I take my right hand and reach it high over to my left, I'm really engaging that right glute, okay? So you really want to make sure you're in strong hip extension, double inhale, and then on the exhale, reach it up, okay? So you're reaching over and touching above that opposite shoulder. And that's the hip extension with your reach. So that'll be your first round. After we go through that first round, so we get done with this. Here's our last rep. Come over here. You can walk it up. Squat down. Get ready right into our squat. Okay? So if we're walking it up, just walk it up, bend the knees, and then get ready to go. That way we're taking stress off the low back, starting to really work on squat patterns. Okay, next round you're going to go to the breathing squats, Hindu push-ups, and then we're going to go from the Hindu push-ups, we're going to go into flutter kicks with a hamstring stretch. Now the flutter kick with the hamstring stretch is nothing more than being in a C curve. So you're in this crunching type movement, okay? Left leg would be down. I'm grabbing here, I'm stretching my hamstring as I come up. Now, I'm gonna double inhale. Always staying in this C curve, this really tight crunch. Point your toes, get that nice dynamic stretch of the hamstrings. Lock your legs, right? So it's a flutter kick. Now, don't drift down out of that tension. We gotta keep tension in the core. Tongue is on the roof of your mouth. That'll help stabilize the neck musculature, okay? After you get done with the flutter kick, what you're gonna do is you're gonna have your legs at a right angle, okay? We're gonna do the double inhale. Drop our legs down. Back to center, okay? Double inhale. So you're right here, you're just pausing, holding your breath, get to max extension there and just, okay? Don't just let your legs fall out and don't just flop them back. What you want to do is control the eccentric phase as you're holding your breath, and then, okay? A lot of oblique musculature that's firing here. So legs at a right angle, double inhale, pause, holding the breath, bringing it back with the strong exhale. So contingent on how long you breathe, that's the speed you want to have bringing it up. So you won't want to just go, right? Make sure you're controlling that a good 4 to 6, as much as 8 seconds all the way up. Okay, then same thing after you get done with that, just roll over, lock it up, squat up. Then we're going to go into the third round. Now the third round will be exactly like the first round. We're going to go breathing squats, You have your Hindu push-ups, child's pose, bird dog, then we'll go rock-ups to reach, rock-ups to sitting tall, and then we can actually do that rotatory action as well. And then we'll finish with a hip extension. So remember, drive those hips up, squeeze the glutes. Key is really squeezing the glutes, and then rotate that arm over, and that's the finisher. So that's workout A. Remember, variation, variety, variability. As you start to refine your movements, what you're going to notice is you'll feel points of restriction. Maybe you want to accentuate your strength a little bit more. Maybe you want to hit a little more reps on your breathing squat or your Hindu push-up. So just remember, let your intuition guide you. I would rather have you really get very fixated on your quality of movements over anything. All that conditioning, once you integrate your breathing, everything's just going to, you really start to feel the changes in your body. But the number one thing we really want to focus on is quality of our movements. All right, let's roll.